In the 1990s, the Chicago Bulls, led by Michael Jordan, were more than a basketball team. They were a dynasty. They moved with a kind of collective intelligence, an invisible understanding that often left their opponents bewildered. But this synergy was not an accident. It was an architecture, carefully designed and cultivated by their coach, Phil Jackson. Jackson, known as the Zen Master, gave his players books on philosophy and meditation. He had them practice mindfulness. He wasn't just coaching basketball. He was building a team with a shared nervous system, a shared consciousness. He was weaving the invisible thread. Welcome back to the inner game of greatness. Thus far, we have focused on the individual's inner architecture. But now, we zoom out. Because the ultimate test of a master is not just what they can achieve alone, but how they can elevate others. Today, we explore the architecture of legendary teams. How does individual mastery translate into collective greatness? The foundation of any great team is trust. But trust is not a soft skill. It is a structural component, built on the individual mastery of each member. Think of an elite military unit like the Navy SEALs. Each member must trust, without question, that their teammate has put in the thousands of hours of refinement, that they have mastered their role, that they can perform under pressure. This trust is not blind. It is earned in the grind. The first principle of championship leadership, therefore, is to embody the work. A leader cannot demand a standard they do not live by. Michael Jordan's legendary competitiveness was often harsh, but his teammates followed him because they knew, without a doubt, that no one worked harder. His personal architecture of greatness set the standard for the entire team's structure. This is where the inner vision architecture expands from I to we. A great leader is a master of detection, but not just of their own inner state. They learn to detect the emotional and mental state of their team. They can walk into a locker room and feel the energy. They can see the subtle shift in a player's body language that signals a loss of confidence. Phil Jackson was a master of this. He would often begin practices with a few minutes of silent meditation, not just for individual calm, but so that the team could sync up, so they could detect a collective rhythm. Next, a great leader must be a master of perspective-taking, a key component of the filtering stage. They must be able to see the game, the challenge, the situation, through the eyes of each of their players. They understand that the rookie's inner world is different from the veteran's. The star player's pressures are different from the role players. By understanding these different filters, a leader can communicate more effectively. They can provide the specific feedback, the specific encouragement that each individual needs. They are not just managing players. They are relating to whole architectures of being. This allows for a higher form of transmission within the team. Not just the transmission of verbal commands, but the transmission of intention, of confidence, of belief. When a leader is grounded, centered, and operating from a place of trust, that state is contagious. It is transmitted through their tone of voice, their posture, their presence. They become the calm eye of the storm for the entire team. This creates the space for collective recognition. The team begins to recognize patterns not just in the opponent, but in themselves. They develop an on-court, non-verbal language. A simple head nod, a glance, a hand signal can communicate a complex strategy. This is shared consciousness. It's the feeling that, We all know what we need to do without having to talk about it. This was the essence of Jackson's triangle offense. It wasn't just a set of plays. It was a system designed to create reads and reactions based on the defense. It required the players to think as one, to see the same patterns, to trust each other's decisions. The offense itself was an architecture for shared intelligence. This leads to the highest level of team performance, collective understanding. The team understands its why. They are not just playing for a paycheck or for individual glory. They are connected to a larger purpose. For the Bulls, it was the pursuit of history, of cementing their legacy as one of an all-time great dynasty. For a company, it might be a mission to solve a major problem in the world. When a team has a shared understanding of its purpose, it becomes resilient. A loss is not just a loss. It is a data point on a longer journey. An individual's ego can be subsumed for the good of the group, because the group's purpose is more compelling than any single person's agenda. The practice for the leader, the architect of the team, is to shift their focus from directing to connecting. It is to ask, how can I create the conditions for this team to become its own intelligence? How can I build an architecture of trust, not an architecture of control? This requires vulnerability. It requires the leader to admit they don't have all the answers. It requires them to create psychological safety, where team members feel safe enough to give honest feedback, to admit mistakes, to be themselves. The invisible thread is woven from trust, and trust is built on authenticity. In our next episode, we will look at the ultimate horizon of greatness. We will explore the legacy mindset, asking what drives a master to continue striving long after the external rewards of money and fame have been achieved. We will explore the architecture of a life driven by purpose and the desire to build something that lasts. For now, reflect on this. Whether you are leading a company, a family, or just a team of two, what is the invisible thread that connects you? Is it woven from fear and control, or from trust and shared purpose? The strength of the team is a reflection of the architecture of its connections.